Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Juubi was in One Piece. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by the Rage of Fire and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto Uzumaki Namik is watched from his hiding place as the man, Captain Kuro he believed, once again punched Luffy. At first he was interested in this lot. He had been passing through when he had heard the sounds of battle. He had made his way over in curiosity and saw a hypnotized youth tear off the front of a pirate ship before collapsing with it on top of him. At first he had prayed to Kami for his soul as no normal person could have survived such weight smashing on top of him, but was surprised when he felt a heartbeat and the steady breathing of someone sound asleep. He had laughed. This world was sure interesting. He was even more curious when he saw the boy, Luffy, extend his arm all the way up the cliff. They started talking about devil fruits and he assumed that that's where his strange power came from as there were no bloodlines outside of the elemental nations. The battles between Zoro and those disturbing brothers kept him interested. His mother was an amazing swordsman and this man had the makings to be great as well. The three-sword style it was quite unique. True, he'd met someone who used 8 swords, but he rarely saw someone who used 2, let alone 3. All his interest went downhill when Captain Kuro came. He was just another scumbag that started to wipe the floor with Luffy. Yes, he felt sorry for the boy, but pain and experience was life's best teacher, not speculation or lectures. Don't pick fights you can't win. Captain Kuro, or as the man clearly stated he didn't want to be captain anymore, was making a fool out of the devil fruit boy while complaining about reputation. Naruto had rolled his eyes. If you didn't want a reputation then don't do something that will give you one. It's as simple as that. The man was also talking about a perfect plan. Nothing was perfect and certainly not plans. There's always a loophole and always that little bump in the road that seemed determined to make sure it's never completed. Luffy stretched out behind him and grabbed a boulder as Kuro charged for him, causing the man to slam his claws into the rock. Naruto raised a golden eyebrow while Kuro just looked pissed. It seems you can do more than just stretch. Growled the man in glasses. That's right. Luffy exclaimed as he started crushing the large boulder, something that made Naruto blink at. He didn't expect the boy was that strong. I've been getting stronger so I can be a pirate. Naruto smirked. That sounded a little like him when he was younger and wanted to be a ninja. Get stronger to be what you want. Get stronger. Kyuubi had always whispered those words to him. Luffy jerked the boulder to the side, snapping off 5 of Kuro's blades or, as Naruto liked to put it, trimmed the bad kitty's claws. And you know what? If you don't want a reputation, Luffy started as he slammed the boulder into the ex-pirate. Then don't be a pirate. Naruto grinned. So true. Then Luffy said something that sparked his interest. You're just greedy Kuro, but I have ambition. Naruto laughed. This boy he intrigued him. It had been 10 years since Naruto had left Konoha and during those 10 years Naruto had gotten stronger than he could ever have hoped to have gotten inside of that horrid village. He still remembered those horrible beating and still had nightmares of them. He remembered a particularly severe beating when he was 3. He had gone into a state of near death like many times before but he had ended up in his mindscape. Of course, he didn't know what it was at the time but he remembered himself being oddly calm. He had hoped that he was dead and that it was all over. Instead, something else happened. He met the Kyuubi. He had wandered into Kyuubi's cage in a certain time when Kyuubi was cursing both the citizens of Konoha and the Yondaime. Yes, he had been scared, terrified in fact, but God forbid he was curious, so he had neared the cage. Kyuubi, upon sight of him, calmed down to an almost neutral level and they stared at each other for what seemed to be an eternity before he had jumped towards the startled demon with a multitude of questions and only stopped when Kyuubi covered his mouth with the tip of one of his tails. After that, Kyuubi had gone into great detail about why he was attacked. He was hypnotized by a bastard called Uchiha Madara, founder of the Uchiha and co-founder of Konoha. Of course, he was confused as to why the man was alive, but it was because of the Sharingan, that troublesome bloodline. And the Kyuubi had given Madara the bloodline himself. The Sharingan was actually a mutated version of the Byakugan who came to Kyuubi crying and pleading to change the bloodline, and the demon had taken pity on him only for Madara to stab him in the back and try and control him time and time again. The two had talked for quite a while, he had learned of his parents, and the Kyuubi offered to make him a half-demon. Taking up this offer would mean that Naruto's strength and abilities would be heightened, and when Naruto becomes 17, he'll completely absorb the Kyuubi and become the new Kyuubi. He'd stop aging when he reached the age of 20 and be one of the most powerful beings in existence. At first, Naruto didn't know what to do. Become a demon. But that would just prove the villagers right and he didn't want to give them that satisfaction. But he'd also love to rub it in their faces when he turns into a demon lord. His decision made, he had accepted and became consumed in unmatched pain. He awoke a week later in the hospital and immediately told Saratobi, who seemed intrigued, a little too much. Kyuubi warned him not to trust the old man, but Saratobi cared for him and raised him, protected him from the mobs. A few days later, he had overheard the Hokage talking with the elders. They wanted him killed and he came to the shocking truth: I allowed you to beat on him and make him submissive, but I won't have you kill our future weapon. And his trust went down the drain. From then on the Hokage assigned him teachers, one of which was Hada Kakashi, who seemed to hate him the worse. He trained him severely and the blonde ended up in the hospital more times than not. He learned his father and mother's techniques from the scrolls he snatched from under Saratobi's nose. He allowed the Hokage and village to believe he was still submissive to everyone, as to not have a loyalty seal placed on him. If one was, then he'd never be able to escape. He hid his true power and smarts, knowing that they'd come in handy for when the time to escape came. When Naruto was 6, Kyuubi gave him a bloodline called Arishingan, the Storm Eye, or Eye of the Storm. Its powers made the council and Saratobi drool in greed, as he had no choice but to tell them its abilities to keep under the radar. The Arishingan was by far the most powerful bloodline yet. He had complete control over water, wind and lightning, and was able to use them without hand signs or saying the name out loud. It took less chakra to use them, and he was immune to their strikes from enemies. Some of its special uses were being able to pull water out of thin air and being able to use the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Jutsu, without the special kunai the Yondaime had to use. It allowed him to use nature chakra quite easily, as if it was the natural chakra running through his coils. He's able to turn his whole body into either water, wind or lightning at a time to easily escape a jutsu or wetn it. After he gained the Arishingan, the Hokage and the council started to take a greater initiative and train him in the more dangerous arts. Kyuubi trained him every night in his mindscape, slowly losing his power to Naruto every hour. Training in the demon arts was much harder than normal jutsu. It required yokai not chakra and was harder to wield but much more powerful. With Kyuubi as his sensei, however, both the demon arts and the ninja arts were conquered much more easily than with those other teachers who stared at him with those eyes, the eyes that accused him of murdering hundreds of people the night he was born, the eyes that would make anyone else cry, the eyes that made you feel empty and useless. By the age of 8 he was at Anbu captain level in the ninja arts thanks to the village's stupidity and want for a powerful weapon like the other villages. He had performed countless assassinations for the village and was still treated like mud. On the night after his birthday he snuck out of the village rather easily. A week later he had become an S-rank missing nin with an order of capture alive. They still wanted their weapon and he was sure they had a loyalty seal waiting for him on a silver platter if he ever got dragged back. Wait, did he just? Naruto snapped out of his musings and stared down at the pirate group before. He just broke Captain Kuro's cat claw. Only 5 more. Luffy chuckled as he dropped the boulder and stared down at Kuro. Don't worry. He can still fight and beat this midget. He still has his other claw. The pirate shouted. Naruto rolled his eyes. Idiots. Despite what it looks like, he grinned, the battle has already been decided when he heard that Luffy had ambition. Rip him to shreds, Captain Kuro. Hey, he doesn't like that name, remember? Isn't he called Clow-Ha something here? Another pirate mused. Clow-Ha something? Another pirate muttered. Before all the crew started to break into shouts of that name, causing Naruto to chuckle. Shut your mouths, all of you. Naruto shook his head as Kuro started talking about killing off the crew. It reminded him of Danzo and the man's attempts to make him abandon emotions and kill everyone, even comrades. It also reminded him somewhat of Kisame from the 7 Swordsmen of Kiri. He encountered them shortly after his departure from Konoha and he started traveling along with their group. They had abandoned Kiri after the Mizukage started the bloodline wars. After seeing his interesting style at swords fighting and found out that he was a member of the Uzumaki clan, they practically forced him to learn from them. It seems that swordsmen have a deep admiration for the Uzumakas, who were legendary swordsmen. His mother, Kushina the Red Death, only proved to them that it was true. He was the closest to Kisame and Zabuza. After 2 years of training with the group, everyone separated while the two and he stayed together. Though Kisame was the type of guy to kill all who stand in his way, even Nakama, he would never hurt family and he saw Naruto as a little brother. Zabuza was just a tag-along. After a year or so, they heard about a group called the Akatsuki that consisted of S-class criminals that were hunting Jinchuriki. Worried for his little brother, Kisame infiltrated the place and became a spy, like how Itachi was one for Konoha. Eventually, he and Zabuza split as well after he picked up a boy named Haku and took him in. Along the way, he encountered Hanzo, who was lying in a pool of his own blood, knocking on death's gate. He had saved the man and he started to train Naruto, seeing the potential in the boy. The man never did like seeing Jinchuriki used as weapons. They already had enough at being a jailer. During his time with Hanzo, he learned that Jiraiya of the Sannin was tracking him down, so the two started to keep a low profile. They met Tsunade, who was drinking at a bar. After telling her their names, she screamed bloody murder and embraced Naruto, who was quite shocked and confused at the time. Later he found out that she was his godmother, who was told by Sarutobi that he had died during the sealing and had left out of grief of thinking she lost yet another person. When she heard about everything they had done, the group had to hold her off from marching off to Konoha and destroying everything in her path. At first, when she heard that the Kyuubi was talking to him, she got worried and started sprouting question after question, well, mostly exclamations of "don't listen to him and take back control," and "don't let him win," while the Kyuubi was laughing his ass off in the seal. After she found out the truth, she calmed down, but she still threatened the Kyuubi, which Naruto found both amusing and frightening. The four then joined up together and started traveling, Tsunade teaching Naruto basic medical jutsu and her chakra control that gave her massive strength. Naruto had only grown madder at Konoha and Sarutobi when he saw everything he could have had in the beginning. A family, power, a mother. Not long after they joined up, Hanzo decided to leave and scout out any allies that were still alive and pay respects to his fallen ones. At first Naruto was reluctant as Hanzo started to seem like a father to him, but the man assured the boy that they would meet again. Time flew by. Dodging Jiraiya, avoiding Konoha, outsmarting Hunter Nins, training with Kyuubi, training with Tsunade, turning into a demon. Yes, Naruto had his life pretty much booked. Naruto met Gaara and instantly became friends after fixing the boy's seal. The Ichibi was even doing the same thing to Gaara that Kyuubi was doing with him. Then, when he was 15, Jiraiya showed up and was determined to take Naruto back to Konoha until Tsunade beat him to a bloody pulp and explained the real situation. Angered, Jiraiya decided to travel with them and lead the Hokage on elsewhere. But Jiraiya around, things were both easier and harder. The man was peeping a lot and therefore too hurt by Tsunade often to train him. When he was well enough, he was quite the help, especially with his father's techniques and with nature chakra. When he was 16, he became an SS ranked missing nin. "You guys are dumb," Luffy suddenly said. "You're the most uncool pirates I know." Uncool? Pirates are savages and nothing more. They're animals that aren't able to rise above their nature. Without my plans, they wouldn't accomplish anything. Crews are simply a means to an end. They're just pawns in a game the captain plays. I decide if they live or die. I say fight, they fight. I say die, they die. Disobedience means death. What a nutcase. Naruto muttered, crossing his legs as he moved to sit at the edge of a cliff, astonished that no one had noticed him yet. Luffy simply stared at the man with a blank yet accusing gaze, one that Kuro found himself powerless under. Luffy didn't waver in his stare, and Naruto was truly impressed with it. Finally, Kuro snapped under it. "This is how pirates are. Don't you dare look down to me. You know, no matter how many hundreds or thousands of men follow you as their captain," Luffy looked up with a grin. "You will never be as good as Usopp." "How interesting. Are you saying I'm not as good as a kid playing a pirate in a fantasy world?" "Yep." Kuro laughed. "You cocky brat. Just because you snapped off one of my claws doesn't mean you'll automatically win. How is he better? How?" Kuro shouted as he did a little dance with his feet and disappeared. "'Cause he's got heart," Luffy said as Kuro appeared behind him with wide eyes. "What? You will never know what a true pirate is," Luffy shouted as he stretched his arm and did a complete 360, slamming his fist into Kuro and sending him flying into the cliff. Naruto's foxy grin widened, showing off unnaturally large canines. Yes, he liked this kid. He was a born leader, one that was destined for great things. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he watched Kuro start to swing back and forth and the pirates panic. He knew something was wrong instantly from that hunched over stance. Luffy simply stood there unwisely, not analyzing the situation well. Naruto didn't blame him though. He wasn't as adept to battle as he was. Suddenly, Kuro disappeared and purple smoke filled the cliff area. Naruto saw Kuro as clear as day as the man was moving rather slow compared to a shinobi, but he knew that to the others, he was invisible. He isn't Naruto thought as Kuro neared his crew. His suspicions were confirmed when the man sliced a pirate, causing Luffy to gape. How'd he get over there?" Naruto watched as Luffy got more and more pissed. He wasn't going to interfere. He wanted to see for himself what the boy was going to do no matter how much he despised the situation. Luffy gained cut after cut but stood still and strong. "Don't you have any heart? Those men are your nakama," Luffy screamed out angrily. Suddenly, after receiving a few more cuts, Luffy grabbed onto Kuro and slammed him against the ground and a smile formed on his face. "I found you. Bastard. Accept your fate to die here," Kuro growled out, sprouting out a few more sentences that Naruto found no meaning to. "You see, though you are going to die here, I'm going to make you writhe first." He finally finished before starting to sway again. Soon, Kuro declared what he did a warm-up and Naruto didn't doubt it. Kuro was stronger than he let on, but that still didn't mean that he stood a chance against the boy. Grinning, he leaned back. "Now, show me what you can do, Luffy." He watched, impressed as the boy grabbed onto Kuro and laughed when the pirate started to cheer on Luffy. Suddenly, Luffy's head shot back towards them after headbutting Kuro and screamed to the frightened crew, "What right do you have to cheer me on?" Naruto chuckled, remembering the Fourth Shinobi War. He and Gaara were the center of it after all. Some brat named Sasuke had caused most of this. Orochimaru was the first to attack the nations, wanting to take complete control and gain eternal life. Of course, he went after him and Gaara being the last Jinchuriki. He had defeated the snake after nearly a day of intense battling, mostly him trying not to rely on half his abilities, Akka demon arts. This, of course, caused him to be feared even more. He had soon lost contact with Kisame and discovered from Jiraiya that he and Itachi were discovered, Kisame getting killed by Madara and Itachi by Sasuke. Naruto had gone into rage after that, destroying the whole forest he was in before stomping towards the battlefield of the Fourth War. He had joined the village side and started killing off resurrected shinobi, Kabuto, and some of the Akatsuki members with the villages, including Konoha, cheering him on. Come to think of it, he had said something very similar to them that Luffy had said to the pirates. It was truly remarkable how similar they were. After Sasori had fallen to a girl named Sakura, he confronted Madara. They battled for hours until he saw the dawn of his birthday and kept fighting through the pains of becoming a demon. Of course, Madara saw this as a chance and tried to control him. Kyuubi saved him. With the last of his strength, Kyuubi jumped out of the seal and tackled Madara, taking the weakness to the Sharingan with him, removing the bloodline from Madara's eyes. "That's stronger to be what you want. Get stronger, kid. I'll be watching over you." And with that the demon disappeared from the earth. Naruto, feeling a new strength, confronted Madara once again, while Gaara kept everyone else at bay while fighting Hyden, who just seemed to refuse to die. It didn't take long after for Madara to lose his head, literally. The war was over, all was well. Sasuke, from what he heard, was brought back to Konoha and Gaara was made Kazekage. Sometimes he would find a shinobi who was trying to get him to return to Konoha to be a weapon. Otherwise life had gotten boring. He had grown too strong for anybody to battle, much stronger than the former Kyuubi which had gained him SSS class status and sent his bounty to the world government outside of the barrier. They rarely associated with the outside world, only when it was emergencies did they. He had been in this part of the world for a total of 2 months, mostly out at sea, and he'd already found something interesting. That guy beat Captain Kuro. Of course he did. And not even the Marines could catch him. Of course not. Just who are you? They finally asked the question. Naruto thought with a roll of his eyes. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. I'd never lose to one who betrays his nakama, abandons his name, and hides from the sea. That's nothing but a coward. Luffy, I haven't heard of him. Remember it, because I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Naruto's eyes widened before he chuckled. Oh yes, this boy was beyond intriguing. He was sure he'd hear much more about him soon. Luffy picked up the knocked out Kuro and threw him into the mass of pirates. Get out of here. He shouted. Never come back. The pirates ran away, screaming in fear. Naruto watched as the orange-haired girl, Nami he believed, ran up to her captain with a bag of what he could only assume was treasure. He collapsed out into her arms and she smiled gently. You did good, Luffy. You did good. Naruto focused back onto the pirates fleeing and falling into the ocean. It was a funny sight. He got ready to leave when he heard Nami speak as she sat next to Luffy who was laying on the ground. Why were you so mad? I loathe people like that. That is not how friends should act. Of course not. Not every pirate is the honorable, brave, gentlemanly people you make them out to be, Luffy. She said while picking up his straw hat. Luffy eyed her before he said. I want some meat. Which caused her to slam his hat down onto his face. You're unbelievable. She shouted, causing him to laugh loudly. The two looked towards Naruto who was clutching his side in mirth. It had been a while since he had seen such a sight. You two are interesting. He said in his naturally raspy voice which caused Nami to blush for a moment. Naruto knew he was attractive, he was told he was all the time. He had muscles built for speed, slitted eyes that were as blue as the ocean sky, sun-bleached blonde hair, and tan skin always attracted the ladies, though he had to admit he almost never noticed right away. He knew many were also attracted to his demon allure. Who are you? Luffy asked suddenly, cocking his head to the side. He grinned. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Who? Luffy asked while Nami screamed in fright, crawling backwards. And Nami? And Namikaze, Uzumaki and Naruto. Naruto nodded, knowing exactly why she had such a reaction. She was afraid of him. What's wrong? Luffy asked his crew member, looking completely perplexed. You idiot, you don't know who he is. She screeched. No. He answered truthfully, causing her to bop him on the head. Listen closely, you hear. You know about the elemental nations, right? Yep. The only place not under the world government's control and all who enter never return. He answered happily, always having contemplating on having an adventure there. The elemental nations have never sent out any warnings or wanted posters of criminals past their borders, but they have one time. It was telling of their most powerful warrior able to destroy mountains and create tsunamis without devil fruit powers. He's an actual demon, a demon, and I'm not lying. His name was Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Luffy's eyes widened and he turned to look at a bored-looking Naruto before his eyes lit up in stars. A demon. He shouted happily. Awesome. The blonde's eyebrows rose at this, staring at the drooling and sparkling youth. Can I help you? Join my crew. Eh? What? Nami screeched. Luffy, are you insane? But wouldn't it be awesome? No, it wouldn't. Naruto chuckled at them. Perhaps I will, but first you have to do something. What? Prove to me your strength. I only take orders from the strong. Prove to me you're worth being my commanding officer. Create a name for yourself, don't lose to anyone. Prove yourself, Monkey D. Luffy, and I'll join your ranks. Until then I'll give you the ship I've been using, it's called the Black Sun. It's yours for the taking. Goodbye Luffy. Just you wait. I'll prove to you I'm worth being king of the pirates. Grinning, showing off his sharp teeth and fangs, he chuckled. Then I can't wait. And he vanished with a ship appearing before them. Luffy smiled happily as he stared at the ship in front of him. It was large enough for each crew member and a few more to have private sleeping quarters, yet looked like it was built for speed. Despite it being a black ship, it looked inviting and friendly. The sails were both black and white, with the watchtower being enclosed as a different room. Its wood a deep nearly black color what shimmered like wood did after a polishing. The front had a snarling dragon carving that someone could easily sit atop of if they had excellent balance. Yes, Luffy liked this ship very much. He'd prove himself not only to the demon but to the world, he swore. Hey big mouth. You guys weren't real pirates, you were just fake ones, weren't you? That's why you don't know what flying a pirate flag means, because you're just a bunch of fakes that didn't risk your lives. Listen, pirate flags stand for something, big mouth, they're not raised as some kind of joke. Do your worst, you can't break this flag. I told you you can't break it. I have no idea who this flag originally belonged to, but it doesn't matter. The pirate flag is someone's pledge to risk their life. It's not something to laugh at. It stands for something you jackasses will never understand in a million years. It won't break, ever. Because the skull on it is a symbol of faith. The memory of Luffy intimidatingly standing atop the tower holding a pirate flag once again invaded Naruto's mind. That straw hat was one surprise after another, always surpassing his expectations. He had hidden himself in the woods as he had watched the events unfold. Wapol had reminded him of that Sasuke kid. He was narrow-minded, arrogant, spoiled, egoistical, and a bastard in every meaning of the word, and was glad he was put in his place. Faith, he had never thought of a pirate flag, meaning that. The skull reminded him of death and poison, nothing even remotely related to faith. He felt a small smile form on his lips. Faith was something he never really needed in the elemental nations. He had to rely on luck, power, and trust. He had little time to put his faith in anything. The boy would be a good leader, he mused. True, he was slow, stupid, unpredictable, annoying, and strange, but he was also honorable, powerful, had a deeper meaning in life, and he knew that the boy was destined for great things. Naruto knew that calling him a boy while he himself was only 1 year older was illogical, but he was a ninja and officially proclaimed an adult. Luffy, on the other hand, was still a teenager. There was also a difference in cultures that affected the decision. Though they were close in age, Naruto was an adult and Luffy was not. At the moment he was in Naruhina, Alabasta's port city, sitting on one of the city's roofs. He had followed the Straw Hats here, in hopes of finally deciding whether he should really join Luffy's crew. Yes, Luffy had tacked challenge after challenge, but he never truly proved to be worthy in a way. The boy hadn't had the challenge that made him face defeat many times over, but wouldn't give up. And, from what he's heard of this crocodile guy, this might finally be it. Right now he was watching Luffy run away from Smoker and the Marines, while being followed by a shirtless guy shouting it's me over and over again. Naruto's amusement heightened when Luffy started to run towards his crew without even trying to lose the Marines, leading them all to his crew as the others grabbed their supplies and started to run away as well. Luffy's gum fruit powers don't work on Smoker, this he knew. It was a nearly humiliating defeat as he watched the boy get beaten quickly by the man. Naruto was ready to intervene, but he noticed another presence and waited. Sure enough, a man came and rescued the young captain. After some research and eavesdropping, Naruto discovered who the man was. Dragon, a revolutionary and the most wanted man in the world. He also knew why Dragon went out of his way to save Luffy. It was quite obvious, he could smell the relation in the blood. After everyone had cleared, he had laughed at the irony of him being his world's most wanted man and his possibly future captain being related to this world's most wanted man. "You can fall back now, men," Smoker shouted as he ran ahead of the other Marines. Straw Hat is mine to finish. "Not good. He's coming," Luffy shouted, speeding up faster in hopes of avoiding Mr. Smoky. "White blow." "I think that's what he shouts," Smoker shouts, his arm becoming smoke as his fist rushes towards Luffy. "Not good, not good, not good," Luffy repeats, trying to run faster. Naruto stood up, ready to intervene, but stopped when he sensed another presence. Sighing, he sat back down. How is it that someone always arrives just before he could have any fun? Kami must be laughing her ass off right now. She does love screwing with him. Was he born just to be her personal circus act? Somehow, he didn't doubt it. Heat haze. The ball of fire flew forward and slammed itself against Smoker's attack. Smoker, startled, stopped running along with everyone else, watching the flames clear to reveal a freckled man with flames burning from his body. "You again?" Smoker said quietly as the freckled man grinned widely. "Just give it up," the man said, Luffy's face turning more shocked at the sound of his voice. "Well, you may have the power of smoke, mine is fire. A fight between the two of us would be pointless, probably going on forever." "Hey Ace," Luffy muttered. "You haven't changed a bit, Luffy." The man now called Ace looked over his shoulder. "Ace. It's Ace. You ate a devil fruit." "Yeah, the flame fruit." Flame fruit. These devil fruits were impressive despite the fact that you lose your ability to swim. His own bloodline was similar to a devil fruit in a way, only his was much more powerful, and he could swim. If he found a way to remove the curse of not being able to be in water, then these devil fruit users would shoot up in power with endless possibilities. "Anyway, now's not the time for talking. You guys get out of here and I'll catch up later. I've got these guys. Go on." "Let's go," Luffy shouted. Luffy? Who is that guy?" Naruto found himself wondering the same thing. He closed his eyes and let his hearing expand to hear both the distancing Straw Hats and the fight going on near him. "Why are you helping the Straw Hat?" he heard Smoker ask. "Can't a guy help out? Besides, having a kid brother as bundling as him makes a guy worry," Ace said, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. "Kid brother?" Smoker asked with a small amount of surprise in his voice. "Interesting." Ace's body started to become covered in fire again, while Naruto silently sniffed the air, which only heightened his curiosity. He smelled no relation in the blood. They weren't brothers by their mother's womb. Yet he claims to be Luffy's older brother. "Portgas the Ace move," Smoker said calmly. Naruto blinked. Was he really asking the man to move so he can condemn his little brother to death? It was laughable. "Afraid I can't do that," Ace said smugly as the fire around him intensified. "Hang on, Luffy. Tell us who that guy was," he caught Nami saying. "Do you know him?" Nami asked. "Yeah." He laughed with a smile. "He's my big brother." "Oh, so Luffy claims so as well. What an interesting mystery. They could always be adopted brothers, but then they'd have the same last name, and he heard Smoker call him Portgas the Ace, while Luffy's name was Monkey D. Luffy. Interesting. Brother. He heard Luffy's crew shout and he rolled his eyes. Geez, no need to overreact. Naruto looked back at Smoker and Ace as fire and smoke collided in a powerful rage. Losing interest in the battle that obviously had no win, he got up and disappeared into the shadows unnoticed. Naruto hid himself rather easily in the orange bushes on the Black Sun and was quite pleased to note that while she was patched up here and there, that they were taking good care of her, watching as Luffy made a rather dramatic entrance by slamming himself onto Sanji and Chopper. He snickered quietly as Luffy blew it off with a laugh, while the two who he hit were less than pleased at his laughing. With a half smile he listened to Luffy talk about his older brother and his strength. Apparently, Luffy's never been able to beat the older boy even when he had devil fruit powers and the other did not. Naruto smirked when one of the crew said the older brother of a monster is an even bigger monster. After Luffy started shouting about beating Ace, the topic of their conversations jumped onto the ship dramatically, causing Luffy to fall over. "Oh, hey Ace. This is my crew, the one that I was telling you about," Luffy said, seemingly unfazed with falling onto the ground, his grin was as wide as ever. From his squatting position on the ship's railing, Ace bowed to them. "Nice to meet you. Thank you for taking care of my kid brother. I know he's a handful." "Oh, no, not at all," the crew said simultaneously and bowed back. "Oh, come on, this is Luffy we're talking about. Be honest, he's a little bit much for you to handle at times, right?" Ace said, a grin sitting on his lips. "Not at all," they said together. "You're good people." Naruto agreed. They had to be good and patient people to put up with Luffy. He just watches him from afar and he gets drained of energy just watching the boy. If he ever does join the crew, then he'd have to figure out a way to deal with Luffy and not get tired every time the boy decides to talk. Well, make yourself at home. I can go whip up some tea. Sanji said, welcoming his captain's brother. No, I don't want to intrude. The freckled, shirtless man said before pointing his finger at Sanji's unlit cigarette, setting the tip on fire. Not what I expected. He's polite, helpful, and gracious, the opposite of Luffy. Usopp said. One of them only cares about eating. There's no way they can be related. Nami said. Very close, little miss, very close. Naruto smirked at her. He bet this was what Tsunade meant when it came to a woman's intuition. While the other only cares about his brother. Zoro finished emotionally. I wish I had a brother like that, it'd be wonderful. Chopper said, tears falling down his eyes. Naruto nodded in agreement. Many times he wished he had a brother, and Kyuubi was the closest thing he had to family if you count bloodthirsty, diabolic, cunning, power-hungry, and above all a demon as a family. Even now, he was still lonely not hearing Kyuubi's whispers and missed their arguments with each other. He'd even put up with accidentally shouting out loud at him and embarrassing himself over and over again just to have him back in his head at times. Forget brother, I wish I had a wonderful captain like that. Sanji said. Vivi looked at them incredulously. Guys. They're kidding. She said, looking at Ace with a look that said that even she wasn't convinced with her statement. Luffy jumped in front of his brother with a full-watt smile on his face, not at all fazed with the comments of his crew. See? I told you they were interesting. He said before he started chuckling. Naruto watched as they finally took notice of the ships closing in on them. Vivi had shouted something about billions and Baroque works, but Naruto wasn't listening. Instead, he was focused on Ace. The man indeed had the feeling of power leaking out of him. Perhaps he'd be classified as a high jounin in the elemental nations. Ace's face grew serious yet uncaring as he took charge of the elimination of the eyesores coming near. He jumped down into his small boat and used his fire as a power supply and sped towards the enemy ships while he and the crew watched, Luffy with a knowing look of pride. He obviously knew that the billions didn't stand a chance. Ace jumped over the ships, his own little boat sinking under the waves. Using his fire as a boost, he soared over the ships and landed on the other side of them on his resurfaced boat. Fire formed on his hand. Fire fist. He shouted out, the fire easily destroying every ship in its way. Naruto watched intently. This family was indeed interesting. He'd need to keep an eye on them if only for entertainment. He'd have to find out more about them someday, but for now he'd just watch. Once all the ships were destroyed, the fire on Ace's arm diminished besides for one finger. Using the same burning finger he tipped his hat up and smirked at his accomplishment, showing that it was all too easy for him. Luffy started laughing proudly and excitedly, while the rest of his crew just gaped. He roasted them. Usopp shouted. Naruto stared for a second before a wide smirk found its way onto his face. Smoker sat on what was once a wall to a building. His eyes were narrowed in thought as Marines ran around the city, searching for the Straw Hats, and he wanted nothing more than to catch that flexible little monkey and send him to the gallows. Smoker's thoughts, however, were elsewhere. He was sure of it, he was sure he saw her running with them like a lowly pirate. He saw that unmistakable azure hair flowing behind her as she ran side by side with the navigator of the Straw Hats, Nami. But why would she be with them? His thoughts were interrupted when Tashigi. Captain Smoker, sir. She saluted. We've searched the entire city, but Straw Hat Luffy and his crew has vanished. Do you want to know who I saw with them? He said, not even looking at her. Vivi, and I'm sure it was her too. In fact, I'm certain. Her eyes widened. Vivi. As in Princess Nefertari Vivi. But what would she be doing with pirates of all people? She gasped. She might be their hostage. They've probably kidnapped her in hopes of her father paying a high ransom. Doubted. She wasn't acting like she was a victim of kidnapping, but more like she was part of their crew. The princess a pirate. Tashigi muttered, her voice betraying her confusion. Something weird is happening, I just wish I knew what it was. He said. And if something was happening, why didn't she go to the Marines instead of the Straw Hats? Surely they'd be of more help than lowly scumbags of the sea. She seemed to be avoiding the Marines in fact, and not just to keep the Straw Hats out of trouble. Captain Smoker. A Marine yelled out, saluting next to Tashigi. I'm sorry, but it appears Mr. 11 was killed while we were looking for the Straw Hats, sir, who by the way we still haven't found. Call off the search for Straw Hat Luffy. I have a good idea where he's going. He's after Crocodile. Crocodile? Why would he go after him? He's one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Tashigi shouted with sweat forming on her brow at the thought of Crocodile. He's a government-approved pirate. Smoker stood up and stared out at the sea before him, blowing out smoke from his lips. I find every single one of the warlords despicable, but Crocodile's the worst by far. But, politically speaking, isn't he an ally of the Marines and the world government? Crocodile might have those old fools fooled but not me. They're crazy if they think that giving him a sanction will make him obey them. He's a pirate. Remember one thing, Tashigi, a pirate's a pirate no matter where they go or what they do. They never change. Crocodile will lead us right to Luffy. Straw Hat will show up wherever he is. I also bet we'll find out what's going on in this country when we get there. This time there'll be no escape for him. Cheers to Fire Fist Ace. Usopp declared. Cheers. Luffy, Usopp and Chopper shouted, slamming their mugs together. Hey. Who said I was joining your crew? Ace asked as the three chugged their drinks for a second. And to delicious drinks. Usopp said again. Cheers. Oh, don't worry about them. Don't take anything seriously when they're like this as they'll use anything just so they can do a cheers. They get so goofy when they drink. Nami said. Ace. You sure you don't want to join us? It'll be fun. Luffy said, taking a bite out of some meat. I can't right now, I'm chasing someone. His name is Blackbeard. Blackbeard? Naruto repeated to himself. Even though he found it somewhat funny that the man was probably taking the name from his ex-captain Whitebeard, but something about that name put him off in a way. He'd have to keep a lookout for the man, he could mean trouble and hinder his journey here. Blackbeard? The one who attacked Drum Kingdom? Vivi said. You see, Blackbeard used to be a member of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. Ace said with a far-off look. He was one of my men and committed the most unforgivable sin a pirate ever could. He killed one of his fellow crew and fled. As commander of his division it's my responsibility to end him. I came here because I heard Blackbeard was spotted in a place called Yuba, so that's where I'm headed. Responsibility, it was a powerful thing indeed. This man was honorable to take responsibility for his division member and leave the crew to take care of him personally. Killing comrades was indeed one of the most unforgivable sins out there. Unfortunately, his old home forgot that as he, who was fighting for them and therefore a comrade, was almost killed by them numerous times. Whitebeard sparks his interest as well. He was called the strongest man alive and has heard so much about the man already, even though he hasn't been in this world that long. He wasn't sure how much of what he gathered was true or not, but even if he divided it in half it was still quite impressive. He was also part of the Yonko he believed. Yonko, the pirates that ruled the second half of the Grand Line, had to be powerful. Naruto would love to fight them. It was another reason he left the elemental nations, to fight. No one was as powerful as him there and no one dared go up against him. He'd heard rumors of powerful men here and simply left in hopes of finding a man that could give himself a run for his money and satisfy his demonic urge to engage in battle. So far, he'd heard of a few men who might be able to give him just that and he couldn't wait to meet them. Hey, isn't that our destination too? Nami asked, looking at Vivi as confirmation. Exactly. The blue-haired princess said, pulling out a map. We've just entered the Sandora River. We'll ride it to Aramalu then we'll continue on foot to Yuba. The leader of the rebel army is said to be there so that's where we're going. You don't say. Ace said. Mind if I come along? Nami, Vivi, I'll follow you anywhere just tell me where. Sanji proclaimed with hearts in his visible eye. Hopefully it's off a cliff. Zoro muttered. What? White, boys. Nami shouted. Looks like you'll be accompanying us for a while Ace. We're all excited to have you aboard. Usopp said. Luffy laughed. This is gonna be fun. To Ace. He shouted, holding up his mug. They all slammed their mugs against each other. Cheers. Naruto smiled and walked over to the edge of the roof and sat down, dangling his feet off. Still as lively as before, Luffy. Zoro reached for his swords and the others got into fighting stances. When Nami saw him, she screamed and his behind the startled Sanji and trembled. Luffy, on the other hand, had stars in his eyes again. Awesome demon guy, you're here. He called out, waving his arms around. Are you here to join my crew? Naruto chuckled. Not yet, Luffy. Luffy, who is this guy? Zoro asked, slowly pulling out his swords. He could feel the power coming off this guy like tsunamis and it made him nervous and borderline scared. He knew that if they fought they wouldn't win. Our new Nakama. He proclaimed. I said I wasn't joining yet. Naruto corrected. Who is he? Ace said, narrowing his eyes at the boy. SS stay away from him. Nami shouted, clutching Sanji's shirt who was too focused on what could be a powerful enemy than to rejoice. Why? The yellow-haired cook asked consciously. DT that's Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, the demon from the elemental nations. All their eyes widened at that, having heard of the dangerous and powerful creature before that the world government was tearing apart the world to find. Ace's fists caught on fire, Zoro pulled out his 3 swords, and Sanji got into stance while Nami, Chopper, and Usopp panicked in the background. Demon? Usopp screamed, running around in circles. Exorcism, where's my exorcism stuff? Give me some too, Usopp. Chopper screamed. Naruto started chuckling at them. "I'm not going to attack you," he said, turning to face Luffy. Ace stiffened and stepped in front of his little brother protectively. "Relax, Fire Fist. I'm not going to harm your little brother." "And how do I know you won't?" he snapped back. "As a Kitsune demon, I'm bound by my word. If I don't keep it, well, let's just say unpleasant things happen to me." "It's fine, Ace," Luffy said, brushing past his brother. Wait, Luffy. Stop him." Nami screamed. "He wants that demon on the crew." They all looked at Nami with shocked and unbelieving looks. "Hey, are you serious?" Vivi asked. "Luffy, stop. He's a demon." Usopp pleaded. "That may be so, but look into his eyes," Luffy said confidently. "He's not a bad guy. I just know it. He's just misunderstood." Naruto's eyes widened before he smiled somewhat sadly at Luffy. "I told you to prove yourself, so I'll give you a test." "A test? What kind of test?" "The crocodile. Send him into oblivion for what he's done. Even as a demon, I don't enjoy seeing people thirst and starve while they falsely blame the king and their princess." Vivi's eyes widened for a moment before a blush found its way onto her cheeks. Sanji saw this and intensely glared at Naruto, who was completely unaffected. "Understood," the captain yelled. "I'll kick his ass, just watch. You're joining my crew, awesome demon guy." "My name is Naruto, Luffy," he said, standing up. "I'll see you later. Don't disappoint me, Straw Hat." He grinned. "I don't disappoint. That's what I'm hoping for," he said before activating his bloodline and vanishing in the wind. What if Naruto Juubi was in One Piece? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.